Some of you did not like my last video. I talked about the importance of player agency and how ultimately that led me to quitting a campaign. And I shared some lessons learned and some advice to help you run better games. This is always the goal with my videos, but some people focused on the communication or lack thereof. Now, I didn't go heavily into the communication or mention almost any of it in that video because that wasn't the focus of the video, but there were some valid points that were shared. Some of the comments said things like,
if you're not having fun, talk to your DM. Seems interesting to me that in a video about player agency, you don't talk about any of the player's agency to talk to the DM. This is why out-of-character feedback is very important.
all of these are valid points and very much the advice that I would give to a player, though in this video, much like most of mine, I will be talking more to the DMs. And if you think players aren't giving you feedback, you're not listening. They may not be giving you direct feedback at the end of each game or talking to you one-on-one, which they should. And I'll say, if you're a player watching this and have an issue in one of your games, go and talk to your DM. This video is not an excuse for you to not talk to your DMs or to bash them behind their backs, but to the DMs out there, a lot of this will ultimately be on you. And the way I look at it is power follows the finger of blame. You can blame the players for not talking to you and yay, it's not your fault, but now it's really hard for you to improve your games and you're likely going to fall into some of the same issues in the future. So as I was saying before, your players are giving you feedback. The question is, are you listening? And the most common way that players are giving feedback is through comments and random things in the game. Side note, this is why I really like having cameras on if you're playing online, because it's so much easier to tell how the players are reacting to things. But if your players say something like,
wow, they have a lot of HP,
they're saying that for a reason. If you roll a saving throw private and when you tell them that they passed the saving throw and the players say something like, of course they do, that is them giving you feedback. Now, this is the most common way to get feedback, but the problem is it's also the most ambiguous way to give and receive feedback. So during the session, just kind of mentally take notes. You can even take actual notes. And then at the end of the session, ask them about it. Give them a chance to talk about it. Say something like, it looked like that fight was harder than you all expected, and give them the opportunity to tell you how they feel. And again, this can be private in a one-on-one call later on, or in front of the whole group at the end of the session, which is the next feedback that you'll get as a DM is the after session feedback. And your strategy for eliciting the after session feedback should be more than just asking, how did everyone like today's session? From what I have seen, that strategy doesn't usually work. I have seen players hate a session. Well, hate is probably a strong word, but I have seen players really not have fun. And at the end, they will just casually say something like,
yeah, it was all right. I had fun.
And now that's not everyone, but that will a lot of the time be the feedback you get. Instead, what I recommend you do is do something similar to what we did in the army. Improves and sustains. You can either do 3 improves and 3 sustains total for the group, or you can have each player give 1 improve and 1 sustain. Improves are things that could have gone better. I wish there was more combat. I felt like I didn't have any meaningful decisions. I want more roleplay. Whatever it is. Your players will likely give you things that they wished was added into the game or that could have gone better. And then sustains are kind of the opposite of that. Sustains are what went well that players want to keep seeing. The NPCs today had a lot of character. Whatever it is. This will really help you continue to improve your games and gauge how your players are feeling. And kind of going off script here a little bit, this is something that I did when I first started DMing that I think was the main thing that I got right. The end of each session, I always had kind of things to look at and things to work on and improve for the next session. I always felt like I was getting better. And if I did something kind of annoying, my players knew that they would have an opportunity to talk about it. One of my players would take notes during the game, and we played with VTTs, and I could look at his character sheet, because that's where he kept his notes, and see when he was like writing things where he was like,
yeah, that kind of annoyed me.
Anyway, good or bad, I think that that was something that really helped me improve as a DM and helped my games get better. All right, now the last strategy for feedback and communication I want to talk about. Now, there are more methods than just what I'm talking about, like one-on-ones, but that changes a lot depending on your relationship with your players, and I don't want to really go into all of that. This video is likely already going to be long enough. So the last one that I'm actually going to talk about, and this one might feel a little too official for some people, but I have seen plenty of DMs do this, especially at conventions, and it is a feedback form. Google Forms are, I think, the easiest way to do this. And yeah, you just give your players a form that they can fill out. This is what mine looks like. It's anonymous, but at the bottom, they can leave their name if they want to discuss it more in person or in a one-on-one. I suggest just Keeping it simple, I like to leave all the questions optional so they can share as much or little as they want, but modify it for what works for you. Now, for the campaign that I quit, the DM didn't use any of these methods. They ignored in-game comments and feedback. They didn't have a strategy for getting actual feedback after the game. They didn't really even ask for feedback after the game, and ignored any comments or complaints from the players that were given during that kind of after-game discussion. Now, again, I want to say I don't have any negative feelings towards this DM. They were newer to DMing and still figuring things out and doing what they thought a DM should be doing. But from my perspective, I wasn't really enjoying it. Things weren't really changing, and so I just wasn't going to play. And if you are not having fun in a game, you do not have to play in it. It doesn't mean that they're a bad DM. It might just be stylistic differences or people looking for different things from the game.